Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. So this is going to be a reading on the Pisces Mercury Retrograde that's coming up. I believe that it starts on February the 17th. And I know that a lot of people, when they hear Mercury Retrograde, they just get very fearful and kind of frantic because it has like a bad reputation. So I try my best to do these Mercury Retrograde readings just to give people peace of mind and to kind of give you guidance, because when it comes to astrology or tarot, I always do remind people that the future is not written in stone. So if you ever hear a negative prediction that you do not want to happen, you have free will, so you can change your decisions and change your energy in order for that negative outcome to not manifest. So when it comes to the retrograde, I kind of take on that mindset of, yes, it's known to have harmful effects on people. Okay, sorry if the audio paused for a second. I didn't notice that my recorder cut off. But like I was saying, when it comes to the retrograde, instead of being fearful, hearing like negative predictions and kind of just going into the retrograde with a bunch of fear and expecting bad things to happen, I like to use these types of energy readings to know what to avoid, because like I said, the future's not written in stone. So just because the retrograde is known to have negative outcomes, you can do certain things or take certain precautions that will kind of cut down on those harmful effects. And that's kind of the point of these types of energy readings. So let's dive into it. Also, I will be extending this video as always. I'm not using Vimeo today. Something's going on with my Vimeo. So I'm using a different site just temporarily to sell the extended video. So yeah, those will be available, or that will be available when this one is over. And the link to that will be in the description box as always. So let's dive into it. The first two cards out are the Guilt card and the Patience card. So these are the overall energies of the retrograde. With the Guilt card being here, I feel like for some of you, things that you feel guilty about or things that you've done in the past may resurface a bit. I'm also hearing that people who have done things to you that they feel guilty about, they may pop up to apologize, or if they don't pop up to apologize, they very well could just be thinking about you and feeling guilty, and you'll continuously have them on your mind because they're thinking about you. So you'll be picking up on their energy and their guilt, so you'll feel it. I'm also hearing to be mindful of people who come back into your life to guilt trip you over something you've done in the past, because I'm just hearing very strongly, like some of you, it's going to be someone who tries to do that. And we're in the shadow period right now. So some of you could have already experienced this. So just kind of be mindful of that. I know that I personally have already experienced this. Like a couple days ago, somebody from my past like came back and tried to guilt trip me for something I did. And I issued an apology. But what I did not do is, what's the word for it? I issued an apology, but what I did not do is beat myself up over it, or things of that sort. And I do have a tendency to do that. So I think that was some sort of spiritual test, because I have a tendency to, whenever I think about things from the past that I've done wrong, I have a tendency to kind of harshly punish myself. So I think that was a spiritual test to see if I could apologize and hold myself accountable, but at the same time, not beat myself up or tear myself down. So some of you could be faced with that challenge. For those of you who are very sensitive and you want to be a good person, like you strive to be a good person, then naturally at times you're going to feel guilty for the mistakes you've made, because we are human beings and we all make mistakes. But it's a pretty important lesson to know how to take accountability without just tearing yourself down. Like you're needing to give yourself compassion even when you're the one in the wrong, is what I'm seeing. For some of you, this is a situation that started but did not come full circle, or it did not complete. So this could have been like a past relationship that started and ended very quickly, and you may have played a role in it, so there's guilt. Or it could be someone else that played a role in it, and so there's guilt on their end. Be mindful of that. Don't let this retrograde like pull you under into those guilty, shameful feelings, because you are a human being, so you are prone to make mistakes. It's the nature of being a human. So you're needing to practice a lot of self-compassion and be very mindful of those thoughts that will try to infiltrate your mind, is what I'm seeing. I'm also hearing that for a lot of you who this applies to, those of you who did go through an experience that ended early, possibly because of something that you did. You're needing to forgive yourself for that, is what I'm seeing. And the retrograde may bring that back full circle, because the saying rejection is God's protection, it kind of goes both ways. That goes for the people who rejected you or who harmed your connection, but it also goes for you. Like, you rejecting that person, even if it was through like self-sabotage, there was still a reason for that. Clearly you weren't in alignment with that person in some way, or there's something that still needed to be healed. So it's like you're needing to forgive yourself for those types of things. And it doesn't just have to be a connection. It could be self-sabotage when it comes to any area of your life. Like if you've neglected yourself in some way, there may be guilt that comes up, and you're needing to practice self-compassion and understand that you were doing the best that you could with the tools that you had. And on the flip side of that, of course, there's also you possibly needing to forgive someone who has done this to you, who has sabotaged your connection, or sabotaged something in your life. And I'm not saying forgive as in forgive them and act like it's okay. It's more so like forgive because they pretty much already paid for what they've done. Like, they've paid their karma and they still feel guilty about it. So that may be comforting for you to know that justice was served. So, you can rest your mind. So the next two cards, we have the flowering card and the blockage card. So this is what the flowering card and the thunderbolt card. These are your blockages and what you need to avoid. So with the thunderbolt card being here and the flowering card, these are like polar opposites. This is like your higher self versus your lower self, or your lower nature, your shadow. And these two energies are trying to coexist this Mercury retrograde. Like, they're trying to exist hand in hand. Some of you have this way of thinking where it's like you're either completely in your higher self and you feel like you're good, you feel like you're an angel, like you feel like, you're perfect, but then there's that shadow side to you. And when you are faced with that shadow side, it can cause you a lot of shame. I'm getting perfectionist energy here, like someone who just strives to be perfect. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this. It's like if you were raised around people who gave you conditional love, you may have adopted the idea that you have to be perfect in order to receive love. Like, it's like you have this complex almost where you just feel like you have to be perfect, you can't make mistakes, or you're just very harsh with yourself. And that can be a bit dangerous, because we all as human beings have shadows. And inevitably that shadow will come to the surface during certain life events. So that's why it's important to give the shadow side of yourself compassion. Like, don't try to shame it and lock it away because you think that side of you is unlovable. That side of you is still very lovable. And it all starts with you loving yourself, or loving that aspect of yourself. I'm trying to see if I can get an example to illustrate my point. I guess an example could be right here in the tarot community or the spiritual community. I know that a lot of readers and psychics and things of that sort, light workers, people do put them on a pedestal and see them as someone who is like all knowing, and that they're like all love and light, and they're like angels come to earth. But that's not usually the case, because we are all human beings, even light workers. In fact, a lot of light workers or people in the spiritual community have first undergone a lot of trauma that caused them to turn to spirituality. That's not always the case, but for a lot of the times that's the case. So there's going to be times where their lower nature or their shadow side or their ego gets the best of them, and then people are kind of shocked, like, whoa, I would have never expected this from you. And then they feel this shame, because it's like they have been put on this pedestal and they feel loved based off of the quote unquote good side of them. But then when their shadow comes out and people, they face backlash, then they'll start to really spiral and shame themselves. I hope that example made sense. Basically what it's saying is that during this retrograde, if your shadow comes to the surface, it's needing compassion. You do not have to be perfect all the time. And that's going to be a major blockage if certain situations or issues from your past come up and you are ashamed of it. It's just going to send a downward spiral. So just know and acknowledge the growth and the progress that you have made. Acknowledge that, yes, there is this quote unquote good side of you that people love and people praise, but that other shadow side of you was created for a reason. That shadow side of you is hurting, and you're needing to give that shadow side of yourself compassion, not harshly condemn it, is what I'm seeing. And I feel very strongly that this is for those of you who just really don't like to hurt people. Like, you don't like to hurt people. You have a keen sense of justice. Like, when someone hurts someone else, you're like, wow, I hope they get the karma for what they did. Like, you're very much into justice. is what I'm seeing. And it's a need to be careful with that sometimes, because then when we are casting harsh judgment on other people, when we slip up and do certain things that make us feel guilty, we'll harshly judge and criticize ourselves as well. So just be mindful of that. So basically, this retrograde, you're becoming more human. You're realizing that you are human, you make mistakes, and it does not mean that you're a bad person, and it does not mean that you are less deserving or less worthy of love, and it doesn't mean that you can't redeem yourself, because you always can redeem yourself. As long as you're alive, redemption is always possible, is what I'm seeing. So, I'm also hearing that another thing to avoid is to try to avoid people who see that you have changed and grown, and they try to kind of bring you back into maybe past behavior. Like maybe you're someone who used to like just curse people out or fly off the handle when they would piss you off, and you have grown and learned not to do that anymore. Like you've decided that you want to grow as a person. This retrograde, it's like people could be coming in trying to push your buttons and trying to get you to curse them out, trying to get a reaction out of you. So it may be a bit of a struggle between who you're becoming and who you used to be. So just don't fall for the tricks. Don't fall for the tests of people trying to, bring you back to your old ways. Don't allow that to happen. Just be mindful and kind of avoid that, is what I'm seeing. So with the advice moving forward, we have the traveling card and the morality card. So with the traveling card being here, I am seeing that you may want to keep busy this retrograde. I think it was the last retrograde I said that you may want to rest. This retrograde, I'm seeing keep busy and be very disciplined. And when I say keep busy, I don't mean just any old escapism. I mean like escapist tactics that are healthy, like healthy, positive distractions, like focusing on work, focusing on your career, focusing on your family, like spending more time doing activities with your family or friends. It's like needing to stay busy with healthy distractions or positive distractions, and being very disciplined when it comes to that, because that may seem like it's not important. Like it may not, because, okay, when someone, when someone gives you advice along the lines of like, you need to go to the gym and you need to put put in work, and it's like no pain, no gain. People will usually listen to that type of advice and think, okay, let me get my head in the game, and they see that as very important. But when like someone tells you like you need to lighten up, you need to spend time with your family, you need to have some fun, oftentimes it's almost like we'll put that at the bottom of our priority list, but it's just as important. Like having fun and experiencing positive things are just as important for growth as painful lessons or painful experiences or things that take pain. So just keep that in mind. Your fun and your happiness, your well-being is just as important as any other work that you could possibly be doing. So yeah, there will be a need for discipline, but I feel like it's more so discipline as in put your fun or put your health, your mental health and your happiness and your peace at the top of your priority list. I'm gonna pull one more just to clarify this. Also, watch your words this retrograde. I mean, that goes for every retrograde really, but really watch your words this retrograde. You don't want to create any bad karma for yourself. Like I said, I do see for some of you people trying to push buttons, and it's just not okay. This energy I just can't stand because this is like the energy of people who they see that you've grown, they see that you're trying to be different, and it's like they purposely want to piss you off or try to bring out the old you, possibly because they themselves haven't grown or they have no faith in themselves to grow. So they want to bring out the old version of you and then cause you to react. Just don't do it. Try your best not to do it. Don't create negative karma for yourself by responding. Like the saying goes, your karma or their karma is how they treat you. Your karma is how you respond. So no response is the best response in this retrograde. And that might be very difficult because I'm seeing that it's going to take restraint to not respond back, to not curse somebody out, to not fly off the handle. It's going to take restraint, but please just practice self-control, because I really don't want any of you to create bad karma for yourselves based off of people who honestly don't matter, because I'm not seeing that these are people who are even that important to you. These are people who are just literally trying to pull you back into that negative energy. So be mindful of that. Take the high road even when it annoys you, even when you want to explode and fly off the handle. Find a different way to transmute that anger. Go punch a punching bag, create something artistic, do something else to transmute that anger, but don't let them see you sweat, and do not respond to them is what I am seeing. Okay, so I'm going to extend this. Thank you for watching this video. We'll dive more into each of these energies, and yeah, I'll just dive deeper into detail. And I'm hearing to talk about love during this retrograde randomly. I'm just hearing it intuitively. So I'll pull some cards for that. I don't really know what to expect from that. That was just a random intuitive download to talk about love. So, okay, we'll do all of that in the extended. So I'll leave the link to that down below. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you over on the extended video.